Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the session. And my name is Shilpa, and today we are going to start one of the interesting chapter of class 8, that is combustion and flame. Combustion, we can simply say burning something, and in return, it is producing heat. So that is combustion simply. But if we talk about flame, so for that, we can go with the candles. You might have noticed when candle burns, it burns with the flame. And flame also have different colors. Different color of the flame is due to different reason also. So we will talk all about this in the session. So let's start the session without any delay. First, if we talk about, we use different kind of fuels for various purposes at home, in industries, and for running automobiles. If we talk about our home students, so LPG is used, correct, as a fuel. Why it is used? For cooking purposes. Elders used to cook food. Also in villages, you might have noticed that the wood is also used as a fuel. In my village also, whenever I go to the village, the grandparents still they are using wood as a fuel. Okay, so that can be also considered as a fuel. Next is coal can also be considered as a fuel. It can be used in our home also, it can be used in the industries also. Next one is for running automobiles. For running automobiles, for example, by the bus or by the car or by the bike, whenever we go from one place to another, the train and different automobiles, correct. So in that purposes, you can say we use fuel also in that case. For example, we can go with petrol, diesel. Okay, CNG is also being used, the cleaner fuel we can say. Okay, so these are different terms that is related to fuels. And you know, students, CNG we just now discussed cleaner fuel. So it is known as the cleaner fuel. That doesn't means that it is completely clean. Okay, does not releases any kind of you can say unwanted substances, but it also produces unwanted substances, but in less amount. Okay, so that is the reason it is considered as a cleanest fuel. So that was all about the fuels that is being used in different purposes, different places, home, industries, automobiles. Next one is, if we talk about the flame, we know that just now we discussed about the candle. Candle burns with the flame. But do you know there are some substances when they are burned, they does not produces any flame. So why that is so? So by that criteria, we can differentiate between burning of candles and the coal. If we talk about candle, just now we all know that whenever we burn a candle, it burns with a flame. Correct? And if we talk about the coal, it does not burn with a flame. No flame is produced here. But the question comes why? Because both are the fuels. Both should be burning with a flame or both should be burning without a flame. But why such a difference? So that also depends on certain criteria. If we talk about candle, or if we talk about petrol, if we talk about kerosene, so whenever they burn, students, correct, so they vaporizes completely. And if any substances, if it is vaporizing completely, means it will burn with a flame. If a substance vaporize completely, means it burns with a flame. But if we talk about any substances which do not vaporize, for example coal, or we can say the charcoal, it do not vaporize, means it does not burn with a flame. So that was all about the fuel, students. So let's start the topic with a definition, that is what is combustion. So whenever we talk about combustion, students, one question very commonly you will get, what do you mean by combustion? So we can write a chemical process in which a substance reacts with oxygen to give off heat is known as combustion. Combustion. And if you talk about combustion, everyone, very common examples we can go with. In class 7th also, you might have studied about the burning of magnesium ribbon. So when magnesium ribbon is burned in the presence of air, correct, and they produces flame, heat. So that is a simply combustion thing. And if you talk about combustion, students, so there are some substances that undergoes combustion. And these are known as combustible substances. We can call it combustible combustible substances. And do you know, it is also known by one more word that is known as fuel. Okay, we can call it as a fuel also. And do you know, students, fuels are also of different kinds. There are solid fuels. Solid fuels, for example, we can say, okay, let us write it complete word, solid fuels. So solid fuels, it can be coal, it can be wood. There are some liquid fuels also. Liquid fuels. Liquid fuels can be petrol, very common example, diesel, kerosene, and many more. And there are some gaseous fuel also. Gaseous fuel. For example, we can say CNG, compressed natural gas. Okay, one of the example. Or we can go with coal gas in the gaseous state. So these are different kind of fuels. Okay, everyone. And next, we should talk about substances. So there's some substances we discussed at the starting of the session only, that if you talk about, if you burn a piece of paper, it is burning, correct? But if you talk about the glasses or the iron, if we try to burn them, even though if we're providing them extra heat, lots of heat also, then also it does not burn. So according to that, substances has been categorized according to this: combustible substances, one is known as combustible substances, and another one is known as non combustible substance. Okay, so do you mean by this combustible and non combustible substances? So, combustible substances are the substances which can catch fire easily on burning. For example, we can go with paper. Paper is one of the example. Next is wood. Next one is coal, and many more are known as combustible substances because when they are provided heat, they burn easily, correct? They are burnt easily. But if we talk about non-combustible substances, so substances which do not catch fire on burning, for example, very common example, glass, iron, and bricks. Okay, everyone. So these are about the substances. So substances can be of different types. Next, if we talk about the experiment, so we got to know, student, that any substances that burns in the presence of air or oxygen, simply we can say. But how to prove that? How we will get in proof of that? So we can do one experiment to prove about the essential of the air. So experiment to show that air is essential for burning. Suppose, as you can see in the picture, we have taken a burning candle, and that burning candle is covered with a chimney. This is a chimney. But what we have done, we have kept some space so that air can enter. And if we have allowed the air to enter, in that case, you can notice that the candle is burning with a flame, and it is burning in a better way. But in the second case, you can see that now we are not allowing air to enter. So here you will notice that the candle flame, it is getting put off. And in the next case, you can see when you will put a cardboard above cardboard above this chimney, so here completely you will notice that the candle will be put off. Why? Because when it is completely covered, till when you can say it also burns, it is not like that, student, that we have taken a candle, it is burning, and as soon as we covered it, it will put off. No, we know when we are covering that, suppose here we are covering it with a chimney, so in that case also some air are still present. And if air are still present there, means that it will make the candle burn for some time, but slowly that will also get uh, finished, and finally the candle will also stop burning. So from that we can say, from this all experiment, that air is an essential thing for burning. Next one is, students, the ignition temperature. If we are talking about burning anything. If you're talking about burning paper, burning wood, and burning, suppose, a cloth, anything, if you're talking about burning, so that need to be provided some heat. Correct? And the lowest temperature at which any substances catches fire is known as its ignition temperature. If you talk about wood, so wood, when it is provided heat up to 250 degrees Celsius to 300 degrees Celsius, it is considered its ignition temperature. Means this is the lowest temperature for the wood. As soon as the temperature reaches 250 to 300 degrees Celsius for a wood, it will catch fire. If it is less than that, suppose if the temperature is being provided that is 230 degrees Celsius, so it will not catch fire. And next one is, if you talk about petrol, so petrol ignition temperature is 280 degrees Celsius, approx we can say. So this is the ignition temperature, means this is the lowest temperature at which the petrol will catch fire. So this was about ignition temperature, students. Next one is the substances which have very low ignition temperature and can easily catch fire with a flame is called as inflammable substances. Correct? So if you talk about the petrol, if you talk about LPG, and many more. So these are the substances which have very low ignition temperature. Means that they catches they catches fire very easily because their ignition temperature is very low. Okay, and in this term you will get to know about one more thing, students. Sometime you will notice that somewhere it's written inflammable substances, inflammable substances, and somewhere you will notice it's written flammable substances. Now the question comes, are they both same or different? So don't get confused. Words are different, but meaning are same. Okay, both means the same only, you can say. So either if it is written about, can you tell the definition about inflammable substances, or can you tell it the definition about flammable substances? So you can write the both, in both the cases you can write the same definition, that the substances which have very low ignition temperature, for example petrol, LPG, hydrogen, and many more. We know hydrogen has a calorific value, highest calorific value. Don't worry, we will talk about that also. But if you talk about this ignition temperature, so they can catch fire very easily with a flame. Correct? And the next topic is fire triangle. If you're talking about burning something, students, the substances catching fire easily, substances, for example, if you talk about petrol or LPG, they have very low ignition temperature, they're burning. But to start the fire, we need to know about the fire triangle. Fire triangle, just like we know the triangle has three sides. Similarly, for starting a fire, we need three things. So that is heat, that is important, fuel is important, and most important, air or oxygen is important. If all these three things is provided, the fire starts. Correct? But we know, students, also sometimes the fire are so extreme, so we need to put off the fire. So to put off the fire, we either cut off the supply of heat, we either cut off the supply of fuel, or we either cut off the supply of oxygen. But it is also sometimes it is told, students, that to remove fuel it is little difficult. It is difficult. It is difficult to remove the fuel. Correct? And if it is difficult to remove the fuel, students, so that is the reason we go for two things. Either we decreases the temperature, we bring down the temperature to, you can say, decrease the temperature below the ignition temperature we bring, or either we cut off the supply of oxygen. And according to that, we use different substances, and that substances are known as fire extinguishers. It can be water, it can be the blanket, we can say. Okay, we know the fire extinguishers that is present in our school, public places. So all of these can be used to put out the fire. So about that we will talk about in the next session, students. And that was all for today's class. And thank you for joining the session, everyone. So we talked about combustion. We know we use different fuels for burning in our home, industries, and in the automobiles also. Next, if we talk about substances are of also different types. Some are combustible, some are non-combustible. Okay, ignition temperature, substances which catch fire, you can say very easily. It has very low ignition temperature. Okay, and ignition temperature means the lowest temperature at which substance catches fire. And also we talked about fire triangle. To burn any substance, we need three things, that is heat, fuel, and we can say the next one, oxygen, the most important. Correct? So that was all about the session. Thank you for joining the session, everyone. Let's meet in the next class with new topics. Until then, thank you, class, and good night, everyone.